Natural Dog Training by Kevin Behan. Chapter 1. What is the problem? Our loyal friend the dog is totally misunderstood. As evidence, let's consider the state of affairs in this country as it concerns the dog. On the one hand, the American dog has it better than perhaps any other dog in the world. A multi-billion-dollar industry looks after his medical needs, his nutritional requirements, and his education. This thoroughfare reflects an intense commitment of love, energy, and money that the American dog owner willingly invests in his pet. When we hear people say, "In my next life, I'd like to come back as my dog," there is a wisp of truth to the statement, as the life of the American dog is quite cushy. But then again, we find in stark contrast to such love, millions of physically healthy dogs being destroyed each year. Are dogs at fault? Clearly not, and I think trainers and behaviorists would agree with me on this point. I've met tens of thousands of dogs in my life, and can only recall a few which could be called unsound. And these rare misfits were the result of faulty breeding practices, the hand of man, rather than the influence of nature. So it would seem that the smoking gun is to be found in the hand of the dog owner. But a simple indictment of dog owners isn't warranted either. After all, upon their good intentions the dog industry is supported. Certainly most dog owners can't be accused of wanting anything less than the best for their pet. Dog food manufacturers recognize this demand as they compete to be recognized as purveyors of the finest premium dog foods. Pet stores and catalogs keep pace as well, dazzling the canine customers' insatiable desire for more equipment, accessories, and of course, toys to keep Scruffy's day joyful. Additionally, dog owners invest their time as well as their money in an effort to get their dog to behave properly. They buy books and consult experts. Nevertheless, few dogs are well trained or calmly adjusted to their owner's lifestyle, and so the ranks of the unwanted swell yearly. Our animal shelters and dog pounds aren't overflowing with dogs ruined by outright abuse. Normal dogs are being killed, and they have been discarded by average family because neither party could learn to get along over the simplest of domestic issues. Given this wide gap between the best of intentions and the results we obtain, is there a uniform rule for success that a typical dog owner is ignoring? If so, it's not apparent by surveying the informational marketplace on dogs and their behavior. When the American dog owner turns to the experts for help, he has to sift through a dizzying blizzard of methods and theories about how to raise or train a dog. In the warehouse of training books, theories, and advice, there seems to be considerable disagreement in the basic formula. One book says, love. The other says, dominate. One system of training will prescribe food as a positive inducement for learning, and another will decry the use of food as tantamount to bribery, a wholly corrupting influence. Even within any one given method, an owner will find techniques that don't support the governing theory. For example, an expert may claim that dogs can be motivated to behave properly through a desire to please their owner, and yet this same trainer will then advocate the use of a crate in house training. Why has the crate now become a more reliable motivator for cleanliness than the supposed desire to please? Another book will state that a prong collar is cruel and inhumane. However, if a dog is bad enough, the owner is advised to throw a can filled with marbles at him to make a hellish racket. I wonder what the dog's definition of cruelty might be in this matter. Another book suggests that making a dog submissive, as a superior member of a wolf pack would do to an inferior, is the most positive way to engender respect from one's dog. But then, in the later chapters, we read that pack leaders are destined to be violently deposed and that fights over bones and status are common. Why would we want to live in a wolf pack as a pack leader? Besides, what wolf is expected to come on command when in full stride after a rabbit, to hang around the den, to admit strangers to its territory, or to tolerate a vet's exam? Our national pattern of misunderstanding runs so deep that in addition to the yearly carnage of euthanasia, dog owners are advised to spay bitches at 6 months of age, to lop off a male dog's testicles, to give female hormones to aggressive dogs, to sedate rowdy dogs for behavioral problems, to remove the vocal cords of noisy dogs, and even to remove the canine teeth in some cases of aggression. How ironic that in a country given to endless romanticism and sentimentality about dogs, we fail to consider his whole being. It is as if we think of the dog as an appliance, and that we can pick and choose from a list of optional accessories so as to machine tool a dog precisely to our lifestyle. Besides, is this to be the height of understanding and knowledge that we should dare to strive for? What's the next step in technological advances? Lobotomies for offensive dogs, or surgically hobble those dogs that might attempt to run away from home? If this kind of confusion existed in the air industry, no one would fly. How would we feel as our jet is taxiing towards takeoff if we knew that the designers at Boeing, Lockheed, and McDonnell Douglas disagreed on the basic physics of flight? On a bumpy flight, it's reassuring to know that there is a consensus among scientists on how planes fly and what they can fly through. In comparison, what standard does the dog owner have to go on? With so many conflicting messages, it isn't surprising that dog owners are confused, and out of misunderstandings we get misinterpretation, and finally we end up with myth. Dogs want to please, dogs need discipline, dogs roam to breed, dogs can turn on their masters, vicious dogs, stupid dogs, etc. Being misunderstood, the worst tendencies in handling can take root, as it is so easy to lose faith in a dog if our view of him is based on an illusion. Unfortunately, science, at least in the popularized form that reaches us laypeople, serves to perpetuate myth and deepen the gap between dog and the owner. Because science can describe the genetic and hormonal influence on behavior and the learning process, it is assumed that behavior and learning is understood. I beg to differ. Behavior is a mysterious process, and terms such as intelligence and instincts have been hackneyed into oblivion in their everyday use. Other terminology such as drive, emotion, feelings, dominance, submission, personality, temperament, character, disposition, hyper, high-strung, and the like, are bandied about without any overall coherency. In such an atmosphere of inconsistency, how can dogs look to a human for direction? In an attempt to unify this muddied discussion, I'm going to be introducing many concepts which at first the reader might find difficult to accept. My ideas directly contradict more familiar ones which are currently in fashion, but don't let an initial sense of resistance distort my message. If you've bought this book, then you've already determined to succeed with your dog or puppy. All you need now is dog sense. There are two irresistible forces in our favor. First of all, Americans love dogs, and that's a powerful ally. Secondly, There is a wealth of training talent available to the dog-owning public, which can get dog and owner back on the right track. My point is that these professionals and owners aren't speaking the right language to each other. The techniques that may indeed be effective are driven by a native talent in the trainer, but they are couched in an old, outdated model. So we have the paradox of the right techniques being housed in the wrong philosophy. Out of a love for the philosophy, many counterproductive techniques can coexist with effective ones, and their downward weight goes undetected. Therefore, the trainer isn't able to correctly articulate the real reasons for his success. The danger here is that an owner without an inner sense guiding him, or the means of cultivating it, ends up with the wrong attitude. He may attempt to imitate the trainer, but he has only the explanations to go on, and can never learn to understand the subtleties of a dog's learning process. He and his dog will never be on the same wavelength. My greatest hope is to redefine the discussion so that the public can start to appreciate the dog's point of view, and then methods that don't work can be painlessly discarded. In the course of writing this book, I have come to two inescapable conclusions. Everything Americans feel about their dogs is right, but everything we think we know about dogs is wrong. To reconcile what we feel about dogs with what we know about them, I would like to offer a much simpler model to account for the diverse and complex ways that dogs behave and learn. First, we must recognize that everything a dog does, whether it is a simple or complex behavior, is emotional. There are many who might like to debate whether or not dogs have emotions and feelings. However, I'm going to assume that my reader has little problem with this concept and that we needn't spend much time on the matter. It is plainly obvious, at least to me, that a dog is an emotional animal. In order for him to act, the mere feat of putting one paw in front of another, or the pricking of an ear toward a distant sound, requires the energizing effect of emotion. We witness these effects daily. Upon our return home, our pets bound with the joy of overwhelming ecstasy. The opposite, but equally emotional reaction to stress can be evoked by the prospect of a bath, a nail trimming, or a veterinarian's needle. If dogs didn't reflect our emotions and express their own, they couldn't have emerged to become man's best friend in the first place. Secondly, we need to see that emotion is linked to drive and instinct. A term such as instinct, for example, may sound a little intimidating at first. I've noticed that trainers and behaviorists tend to club questions over the head with it. Why does my dog do this or that? An owner asks. Because it is an instinct, or the behavior evolved due to survival of the fittest, and so on. The discussion ends apparently to everyone's satisfaction. But there's no reason to be threatened or appeased by the clinical and scientific sound of the word. To call a behavior instinctive, the result of hormones, or influenced by genetics, is not the bottom line in our understanding of behavior. There are reasons, or shall I say natural laws, why dogs snap, growl, chew, jump up, etc. And these underlying motivations are what the dog owner is groping for when he seeks answers. By merely explaining a dog's behavior by relating it to instinct and evolution, does nothing to explain the dog's actions in any meaningful way. What is the dog's point of view? What is in his mind? Now, the basic function of an instinct is to provide a pathway through which emotion can flow like a pipe carrying a stream of water. A dog has a distinct point of view based on whether or not his emotions are flowing through this pipe. The next question for the dog is, how much water is moving along? And the more the merrier. We can recognize when a lot of water is flowing because the dog will be acting excitedly and experiencing pleasure. Conversely, when juice isn't circulating, the dog will be under pressure and will exhibit stressful or explosive types of reactions. The interplay between emotion and instinct can get very complex. We'll leave how emotion and instinct evolve into drive for a later chapter. But it is always following a natural plan delivering onto us a dog that is born incomplete. His inborn makeup makes the dog a social being that needs others of his own kind. A dog recognizes another as being of its own kind if it exhibits a corresponding passion for the same kind of prey. On the lowest level, an instinct connects a dog to that which it needs to survive. And once connected, the dog becomes in balance. However, there is a much more profound aspect to behavior beyond mere survival. When emotion flows through the dog's body at full strength, the dog becomes whole. For this to happen, a dog has to become integrated with his surroundings, and this will bring us once again to the subject of drive. So while there are many instincts, and many species-specific reflexes elicited by these instincts, there is only one drive. Now, since the dog descended from the wolf, and the wolf earns his living by killing, we will find that, not surprisingly, the prey instinct, the desire to chase and bite that is moving, is the mainspring in the dog's internal mechanism. This means that prey making is that which can accommodate the full gush of an emotional outpouring. It's like the main pipe that brings water from the well to the house, or the high voltage line that transports electricity from the utility pole to the circuit panel in the basement. And even if your dog seemingly displays the predatory impulses of a couch potato, the mighty heart of an Arctic carnivore roars somewhere in the deepest recess of his temperament. If one pays close enough attention, one will find its signature in everything a dog does. Understandably, until you read the next few chapters, this connection may initially be hard to find. But if you step outside the traditional ways of looking at the dog, you'll notice that what leaves your dog feeling totally fulfilled are those times when his prey-making capacity is completely exercised, rendering him emotionally exhausted. For your dog, this may mean a game of fetch, or putting a flock of geese to flight, or play predator games with his dog buddies. Perhaps you've seen a hunting dog sacked out after a full day in the field. The glazed eyes, the tongue lazily and carelessly dangling from a slack jaw, indicate a mood of complete contentment. Fulfillment is the condition of wholeness. This is vital information to anyone interested in training or living with a dog, because the prey instinct/drive does more than fetch a meal. It puts the dog into harmony with anything or anyone which can lead him to the natural bliss of wholeness. The prey drive does more than reinforce behavior. It determines the dog's perspective and range of responses. Its effects cannot be overstated, as it is the agency through which the dog learns self-confidence and calmness, or in contrast, the negative counterparts, unsureness and anxiety. Everything that a dog feels, acts and learns, everything that he is about, is due to the overwhelming influence the prey drive has on the canine species. We will be exploring this connection in great detail as we go on. But for now let me say that when this linkage is ignored, the dog cannot be trained in a manner consistent with his natural process of learning. He is destined to become nervousness, which will in turn activate defensive and survival instincts as a means of coping. Paradoxically, the dog will act wild, and its canine wildness ends up being blamed for the malaise. The key to success in raising or training of a dog is to know the rules by which the prey drive influences the dog's emotions and behavior. On one level of the prey instinct, it is a mechanical process. However, this shouldn't diminish for a second the degree of affection we hold for our canine companions. The spirit of a dog, that essence towards which we are emotionally attracted and wish to befriend, is trapped within this instinctive mechanism. But by working with his wildness, we can integrate ourselves within the one drive and truly set our dog free. Once dog and owner agree on what the prey is, the dog is trained. That was Natural Dog Training by Kevin Behan. Chapter 1. What is the problem